Tensions between Dorado Park residents and their local police at fever pitch after the death of teenager Nathaniel Julius. Now, on Thursday morning, community members stormed the police station, resulting in the destruction of police vehicles and property. They blamed the police for the death of the teenager and are demanding a purge of corrupt officials from their area. Now, a recent survey by the Institute for Security Studies found that some 15% of police officers surveyed failed to recognize that stealing from a crime scene, unlawfully shooting someone or accepting bribes and kickbacks, as well as falsifying official forms, are actually violations of accepted rules and norms. Half of the number of South Africans surveyed believe that most police are corrupt and that 2/3 actually don't trust them. To help us further unpack this complex relationship between police and the communities they serve, let's rope in independent researcher David Bruce, who's studied these complexities in quite some depth. David, thanks very much for your time and welcome to the AM report. So we all really watched with horror yesterday with the scenes that were coming out of Dorado Park, and for the most part, it's because there was an awkward familiarity to what we saw. Do you think the response, or let me ask, what do you make of the response from police to the genuine hurt and despair that was shared by community members yesterday?
Well, I think that the manner in which the police responded can be seen as, at best, unfortunate. I think the one issue that emerges from the coverage that I've seen of the incident is that there was violent protest by members of the community. And it is the responsibility of the police to respond to those kinds of protests and to address the violence. But the manner in which they do that can either aggravate their relationship with the community, or it can be done in a manner which is sensitive to and respectful of particularly the law-abiding and peaceful members of the community. And there were certainly a number of allegations that police were using rubber bullets in quite an undiscriminate manner. So, and it seems that the approach that's often taken by the SAPS is that once they have some kind of justification for using rubber bullets, it almost doesn't matter how they use them. It's like any community member whose presence at that point is fair game. And so the allegations are that a number of innocent people were injured, and this kind of indiscriminate use of rubber bullets should essentially be regarded as unacceptable. Essentially, they in a situation that was already bad, the SAPS have effectively added insult to injury.
Right. The response that police gave, which quite frankly is not unique to South Africa, is to further militarize an already volatile situation. I mean, we're seeing very similar scenes playing out in the U.S. city of Kenosha, where a black man was shot and is now recovering in hospital. Speak to us about that strategy as a response to unrest, the further militarization of communities. Is that the best way to go about trying to quell volatility in any community the world over?
Well, you see, I mean, responding to, it's important to recognize that in any protest situation, the one thing is that there's often different people involved. A crowd is not an undifferentiated group of people. And so the essential point is that any use of force should be directed, insofar as it's justified, should be directed against people who are engaged in violence. So and the police needs to clearly differentiate between members of the community who are involved in violence and those who are not involved in violence. And it's unacceptable for them to use, for instance, rubber bullets in a sort of indiscriminate and reckless way. And, there was, a number of allegations from people that they'd, for instance, been trying to pick up children from schools and so on, and had been, and had been hit by rubber bullets or had been exposed to the danger of being shot by rubber bullets.
Right. In fact, we had some people speaking to our reporters on the ground suggesting that they were met by violence even in their own homes. But part of what fueled the fury yesterday was around contradicting statements about what exactly happened and how Nathaniel was actually hurt in all of that. Have police done enough at the very least to try ascertain what was fact and what perhaps wasn't before responding to this unrest?
Well, you see, the one issue that I would also just pick up on is that I saw a statement from the Premier's office last night, where it was alleged that there was some kind of exchange with a group of gang members. The police were involved in a kind of some type of shootout situation. Now, I'm not sure if that's been corroborated at all. But even that shouldn't serve as a justification for this kind of killing. In exceptional circumstances, it might happen that someone is caught in the crossfire, but generally it shouldn't be accepted that the police can shoot a young child and then say, oh no, that this was just collateral damage. The police should clearly recognize that it's their responsibility to ensure that bystanders or, people who are, uninvolved in the situation are not, affected. And, so the fact that even if there was, and I'm not sure if this is true, but even if there was some kind of, shootout, as it's claimed, with gang members, this shouldn't necessarily be seen as providing a justification for the fact that this young man was shot by the police.
All right. Thanks very much for your time and for giving us that necessary insight as we try to make sense of what took place in Dorado Park. So much to consider, but we're going to have to leave our conversation there.